Alright, we're going to be talking about patch 13.21, just going over the patch notes and seeing what actually matters. So, Aurelion Sol nerfs. I think they're just nerfing his scaling. So, Riot's statement for this is that Aurelion Sol is a big winner because snowballing was reduced. So he gets more time to scale, and he was overperforming. Not really. This champion was only performing in lower elos where people are less successful at punishing people in laning phase. Like if you're playing like Orianna or any assassin of any kind, or even any mage really, most things can just absolutely stomp Aurelion Sol in lane. He doesn't do any damage until like level 5. His only trading pattern is to tag you with one instance of Q to proc Comet and Scorch and do like 80 damage with that. So this changes what? Magic damage per second, 15 to 55 plus 30 to 80 based on level. Plus 60% AP to 45 to 105 plus 55%. So he's losing 5% AP ratio, which is fine. That's not a big deal. It's this scaling damage. So 45. When is this a nerf? This is like a nerf at like level 10, I guess. Onwards. Burn magic damage 40 to 80 plus 20 to 30 based on level 30 probability plus 3.1 Stardust. 60 to 100 plus 35% AP. This is a nerf from like level, I think level 9 onwards in terms of his Q damage, unless he's ahead, but you'll never get ahead on ASOL if the enemy team is like human beings. Okay, Bel'Veth. Last patch they nerfed Bel'Veth really hard, and she has kind of died, and they're just like trying to turn that back a little bit, but they're not trying to give her back her damage reduction, they're just reducing the cooldown on her E. 4 to 2 seconds throw scaling. This is her second max ability, so I really don't think this is going to change anything. Bel'Veth is still going to be not very good. She's going to be super situational counterpick to a lot of some team comps. Okay, Brand. So the thing with these changes is Brand getting more attack speed like this, both base attack speed and AS per level, and 5 base armor. He's losing 20 base HP, but he's getting 3 health per level. By level 8, he has more health than he did before. So it's just those early levels he's going to have a little less health, but he's going to have more armor. So this means things like Brand top and Brand mid into certain matchups are going to be much more pilotable. Brand AD carry as a niche pick could be very good now. This is also like just a buff to Brand support. They're lowering the base damage on conflagration by 5. That doesn't change anything for any of Brand's breakpoints, for wave clear, or for poke. Now this is just a buff to Brand in all roles. Realistically, Brand's a 4-way flex now. He was before, but now he's just an even better flex. His weakest position was the jungle, and top lane was super situational counterpick. But now he's like he's gonna be a little tankier. Especially if he's getting solo XP in the solo lanes, that HP nerf is gonna go away so fast. Okay, Briar. Attack speed growth 2.3 to 2. Okay, so at level 5 she's losing like a dagger, essentially. No, sorry, not a dagger. She's losing like, she doesn't even lose a full dagger by level 18. That's what I meant to say. Heal if bleeding target dies, 100% remaining. This is more of a buff targeted at lane Briar than it is jungle Briar. W damage down. It's just a bonus AD nerf. Okay. I am a Caitlyn player, so these changes are very strange. Because they're like, oh, we're nerfing lethality Caitlyn, but like, this doesn't even kill lethality Caitlyn. Okay, lethality Caitlyn just swaps from Absolute Focus Gathering Storm to probably Eyeball Collection Ultimate Hunter, and that fixes the cooldown nerf. And instead of Axiom Arc, you can just go like Storm Razor or something. and it'll actually end up probably equating to almost the same damage. You just won't have this CD refund, which is whatever. Lethality Caitlyn is still very much alive, just a few tweaks are needed to make it work. But this is massive buffs to like Infinity Edge crit Caitlyn. It's buffs to Gale Force Caitlyn as well, but much bigger buffs to Infinity Edge Caitlyn because crit ratios. Bonus physical damage 60, 90, 120 plus 81.25 crit chance. 107% critical strike damage to 60, 90, 120 plus 85% crit chance. That equates to like quite a bit of damage. 4% late game is quite a lot of damage to give an AD carry on an auto attack, like especially with Caitlyn's headshot. Physical damage, base damage down at rank 2 and 3, BAD ratio down, crit scaling up 15%. Like I said, this basically means that like if you're playing Lethality Caitlyn, come hyper late game, you're gonna convert to an Infinity Edge crit build anyway, and end up doing probably more damage with your ulti, so long as you keep Collector and LDR. Mundo, this champion already doesn't exist in high elo. This is 100% a low elo nerf. Low elo games have a tendency to either end really fast or go really slow. They also tend to not have a great semblance of how to punish champion weakness in lane, so Mundo gets to scale up and hit his 3-item spikes, and then just take over the game. So this is a good way to tone him down. I really would wish they would kind of reevaluate the philosophy around balancing a champion around low elo, because this champion does not fucking exist in elos where people have hands. AD growth increased, W duration increased, 0.5 AD per level, duration of Spirit of Dread 4 to 5 seconds. So I actually don't know if this means that Hecarim's going to be able to get access to more healing from Spirit of Dread, or if it's just the damage per second is going to stay active for 1 more second, and the bonus resistances are going to stay active for 1 second. But one thing you can say with getting 0.5 AD per level means that he's going to be stronger with Sheen items like Trinity Force and Divine Sunderer, because they scale off of base AD, and he's going to be gaining every 2 levels, he's going to gain 1 base AD, so by level 10, he's going to have an extra like 5.5 base AD, which equates to like an extra almost 20 damage per Sheen proc at level 10. Level 18, it's going to be like 10 extra, which is going to equate to like 25 bonus damage every Sheen proc. And with Spirit of Dread's resistance, this could be like the rise of some Bruiser Hecarim stuff. I'm not super well versed on Hecarim. Passive, get excited, Jinx can only get 5. Okay, that's great. But why the fuck was it shipped in the first place? Where she was allowed to get 15 stacks and have 30 attacks per second. Like, this was just some rioter was like, I want to see the fucking world burn, and I want to see fucking retarded shit. Right? Like, this should have been in the game from the moment they added the stacking multiplicative buff. She never should have been able to go as ham as she did. Yes, it was situational, but it was not okay. Okay, Cassante, Dauntless Instinct, 35% all-out bonus damage, 35% to 45. Whoa, okay. So keep in mind, this is not as egregious as one might think it is, because they removed the scaling with resistances. This is just a flat, like, damage number now. But this is still a huge buff. Like, that's still, like, at level 16 from this patch to last patch, he's still getting over double the damage from his passive. That's kind of crazy, and it's true damage. Required bonus health for minimum cast 18. Whoa. Okay. So this means I'm pretty sure Cassandra can just go like Jaksho Kindle Gem and hit his HP threshold for the lowest possible cast time on his Q. That's wild. W. Pathmaker no longer interrupts Cassante's E-dash when the channeling starts. Okay. Maximum channel time 1.0 and 1.5. Okay. This doesn't change the damage. But what it does do is it gives you an extra half second of damage reduction, both in regular and all-out forms, which means Cassante is just getting tankier by proxy with this duration increase. Calculated based on physical and true damage dealt to champions, based on all damage. So it basically is also including magic damage now. This doesn't really change that much, because Cassante's magic damage is super limited. It's just his ultimate that does magic damage, and then it would be his items like Sunfire, Cape, and Thornmail that were doing magic damage. They don't now apply Omnivamp, which is definitely a small situational buff, but not a huge change. This is a bigger change. Q plus E attack resets. 0.1 to instantaneous. So they are now instant attack resets, and which is even better because they introduced attack speed onto Casante's All Out. So it means Casante can weave really, really well now. I've been toying with the new Casante build, and where you go Jack Show, and then you go Kindle Gem, and then you go into Stoneplate second, and then you can go like things like Shojin, Sterak's, Cleaver, because the resistance thresholds and the HP thresholds have all been reduced so much, and this is even furthering that rhetoric. Casante can now function like a bruiser. You can still build him full tank, but there are definitely games where I think that this bruiser build containing Shojin, Cleaver, and Sterak's with Stoneplate and Jack Show, with, keep in mind you're going to have conditioning as well with Overgrowth, you're going to have so much tank stats, and Casante already does a lot of damage. With these items, he's just going to be able to rip through teams if you're good. Okay, LeBlanc. Yeah, you gutted her when you nerfed AD LeBlanc because she was a champion who in lane phase needed to weave in a lot of autos in her trades, and you gutted her base AD, her AD per level, and her attack speed ratio. So AP LeBlanc also got fucked by the changes they made to AD LeBlanc, which isn't a very hard concept for rioters to understand. Like, I'm not a rioter, I'm not a professional game designer, but I could have told you that the way they nerfed AD LeBlanc was going to hurt AP LeBlanc really hard because she fucking weaves like 4 auto attacks into her trades at levels 1 through 5. So, you know, but that's just me. What do I know? I'm not a rioter. I only know how to play the game better than everyone on the balance team. It's fine. AP ratio on W, 65 to 75%. Proc damage, so this is the E2's damage, 70 to 80 AP. Okay, that's whatever. This just doesn't change LeBlanc's problem, as LeBlanc has always traditionally been a dominant mid lane champion who was going to poke out, shove people out of lane, and go for roams and look for picks throughout the entirety of the game. So with the changes that they're pushing is that this doesn't buff LeBlanc's laning like almost at all. This is like making her scale better, which isn't her problem. Her scaling is fine. It's that the fact that her laning is so bad and her power trough, because she can't get a lead anymore, is so massive at one item. Okay, Mastery E cooldown decreased. 18 to 14 seconds, that's whatever, it doesn't matter. W damage increased, damage. Okay, this champion is going, this champion is already good in jungle, and they're buffing it again. So, Morgana's probably pick ban this patch. She's super, super strong now. Okay, Rammus. These nerfs don't matter. Rammus is still going to be Rammus. You're still only going to pick Rammus when you were going to pick Rammus before. This isn't going to make you not pick Rammus when you would have picked him. That's whatever. Okay, these changes don't make any fucking sense to me. Mana regen growth 1 to 0.4, base mana 440 to 360, mana growth 40 to 50, base armor. Oh, we're just giving her 7 base armor. Okay, sure. Health growth 1. Wow, she's doing 14 health per level. Attack speed growth. So they're just giving her some. Okay, these are, from my understanding, they're just trying to move Seraphine back to support out of lanes and AD carry, which is fine because ADC Seraphine is cancer. Okay, base damage 155 to 115. So even from rank 2, which this is normally Seraphine's first max ability, she's getting 10 base damage, 20, 30, 40 base damage. And especially because this is like the one you're going to be double casting for poke, you're essentially going to be getting 100 base damage on this fucking spell. And the cooldown is lower early, like ranks 1 through 4, and then it levels out at 5. Wow, okay. Mana cost 50 to 90, 80 to 100. Wow. Okay. Cooldown 28 to 20 to 28 to 16. Okay, they really want Seraphine to max W second, which would go along her support rhetoric. Shield 50 to 130 plus 100% AP to 50 to 150. So shield values go up starting at rank 2, which you would get your second point in this at level 8. So at level 8 you would notice this buff ever so slightly, 130, 150. Missing health heal. Okay, that's definitely a nerf to her healing, but that's again, I think, targeted at mid lane Seraphine because they're removing the AP ratio, but they're also nerfing the base, which is kind of weird. E, mana cost 60 to 100 to 60 to 80, so mana cost's down, but this is going to be your last max ability on support Seraphine. You might throw a second point in it because 15 base damage is kind of crazy. So you might just throw a second point in it randomly, because W is like not that big a deal. You might throw a second point in E and then max W. Okay, passive damage on Tahm Kench. So this champion I actually think is going to be really oppressive in the bot lane if you come at it with Caitlyn. Caitlyn Seraphine might be one of those oppressive bot lanes this patch simply because they're going to outrange everybody and they're both going to do way too much damage. Passive and acquired taste. Bonus magic damage 8 to 60 plus 2% AP per 100 bonus health plus 3% bonus health 6 to 48 plus 2% AP per 100 bonus health plus 5% bonus. Okay, so this is like this is a support Tahm Kench nerf and a top lane Tahm Kench buff, which is fine. Abyssal Dive. Cooldown refund on champions hit 40% flat to 40 to 50. Okay, whatever. Okay, Varus. 7 to 27, 7 to 31. This buff takes effect. Really, you're not gonna feel it until like rank 4, rank 5. It's very like small buff. This isn't a buff for bot lane Varus, realistically. This utility buff is nice, but in almost all iterations of Varus, his E is his last max ability. But at least the slow buff is consistent. It's still 5% slow across all ranks. So the only Varus this actually puffs is like Varus top when you're playing him as like a niche counter pick, because W is Varus top's first max ability. So it's a buff for that, but really it doesn't like do a lot anywhere else. This is a bit of a placebo buff. Zyra, base attack speed up, whatever, attack speed ratio unchanged. 20, 88. Okay, so this is only a buff at like 400 AP. So this is a nerf to support Zyra, and like a buff to like Zyra everywhere else. Q, Deadly Spines, 60 to 200 to 60 to 220 base damage, is double 2 with plus 5% AP. E, wow, you're getting 40 base damage on E. Okay, so traditionally Zyras have been very split about maxing Q versus maxing E first. This kind of just, I don't know, the thing is that maxing E increases the root duration as well, so support Zyra probably still going to max E even though she's going to be missing a lot of damage on it. But Zyra elsewhere, like, the niche times you're going to see Zyra in the jungle, maybe from some people, or Zyra in the mid lane, Q-max is 100% going to be better, but Zyra support probably realistically, even though she's going to be missing some damage, still going to max E for the root duration because you are a support and utility is your main function. Items. Hullbreaker. Especially... bonus armor and MR. 10 to 75 to 10 to 60 for melee. 5 to 37.5 to 5 to 30 based on level. Okay. Let's talk about Hullbreaker, shall we? This item is unhealthy for the game. It promotes an uninteractive, unhealthy, unfun playstyle, right? And if you have a top laner who is a non-Hullbreaker champion into a Hullbreaker champion, and they fall any semblance of behind, or make one macro mistake, that top laner is going to get a tier 2 tower and get 600 gold, and then they're going to be unfucking manageable, unless you have champions to do so. You could give these resistances back, right? Here's the thing. You could remove almost all of Hullbreaker's passive elements. Like, it doesn't buff the minions. It doesn't make the champion who has the item do bonus damage to turrets. Like, you could remove the part where it buffs the minion and remove the part where it makes you do bonus damage to towers, and this would still be a great item. Right? That's how strong this item is that you could remove 2 of its 3 main functionality passives and still have it be a phenomenal item. Even when you're in a team fight, so you're not getting any of the passives, this item is still like 118% gold efficient on just the raw stats the items give you. This item is fucking unhealthy. They removed Banner of Command and ZZ Rot Portal for being unhealthy, non-interactive playstyle inducing items. Hullbreaker does what those things do, but worse, and it makes it even worse because the item gives good stats. Banner and ZZ Rot were objectively shit items, but they promoted an unhealthy playstyle. This promotes the same unhealthy playstyle, except the item's stat line is fucking absurd. Like, Riot doesn't know why this item's OP. They don't understand. Okay, it's fine. They'll get it one day. Small indie company, guys. Just give them a couple years. First strike. Okay. First strike is only overperforming on melee champions. Reducing it by another 1% here effectively probably kills first strike on a lot of ranged champions. Like, when this rune was released, it was 10%, and it's now been nerfed to 9 to 8 to 7. Like, you need to make a melee range split, like, damage for this rune, because the only champions that are making this rune problematic are, like, melee champions. There's one range champion in Caitlyn that it's kind of problematic, but that's more about her kit and her interaction with armor pen and high raw AD values than it is first strike. Because there are people playing lethality Caitlyn with Halo Blades, and it's doing the same thing. They need to make a melee range split for this rune, because if they ever want this rune to be balanced for melee champions, it'll be balanced for melee champions, but then it will be absolutely unplayable. And the thing was, it's like, oh, it's just the damage, it's not the gold generation. The gold generation from first strike is based on the amount of bonus true damage you do. So by reducing the true damage you do, you're reducing the amount of gold you're going to get. So this is not only a damage nerf to first strike, it is an income nerf to the rune as well. So for ranged champions before, right? Say I did 100 bonus true damage, or I did... When this rune was released, if I did 100 bonus true damage as a ranged champion, I would get 70 gold, right? And then they nerfed it to 9%. If I was doing that, would make me, in that same instance, I would do 90 true damage. But I would lose more gold because it's 70% of the damage value. So it's not 1-to-1 like it is with melee. And now, like, if I do, let's like, random ass ballpark, if I do 1,000 damage with bonus true damage with first strike, which is not realistic and will almost never happen, by the way. This is just, as a melee champion, I get 1,000 gold. As a ranged champion, I will get 700 gold. But, like, realistically, that's never going to happen, so let's cut that in half, right? Say you do 500 bonus true damage with first strike, which is also still very, like, rare that it happens, other than in hyper late game scenarios on certain champions, right? I do 500 damage bonus true with first strike. If I'm a melee champion, I'm going to get 500 gold for that. If I'm a ranged champion, I'm going to get like 300, maybe. Hold on, math. Something around there. I don't feel like doing the math right now. Point is, they need to do a melee range split for this rune, because if they want to make it balanced for melee, they have to kill it for ranged unless they do a split. Phase Rush melee. So this is going to be a nerf to Garen, Hecarim, Nunu. Those are the melee champions I can think of who run Phase Rush most regularly. Jungle Patch. Okay, we're giving the AD scaling back on the pet's damage, so this means AD junglers should probably be able to play the game again. We're going away from the missing health, 2.25x. Okay. ARAM, Clash. Any bug fixes that are important? Oh, this is important. Fix a bug that caused Fiora's passive to ignore Shen's W dodge. So that actually, it's a big deal for Shen in the Fiora matchup. It's still Fiora-sided matchup, but it actually will make the early levels a lot more playable for Shen, and will allow him to clear waves with Titanic and Sunfire a little better in the later stages in the side lane. Alright. So, I don't know. TLDR, looking at this patch, Nexus Bliss is coming back, which is lit, but in terms of actual effect on the meta, Caitlyn's still going to be really strong, Rammus is still Rammus, Jinx is still going to be Jinx. I think the only actual there's no, like, meta-defining changes here. Morgana jungle buffs, that's the only, like, probably the most meta-defining thing in this patch. And with First Strike nerfed, you probably don't see it on ranged mid laners anymore. It's probably every mage is just going to have Scorch Airy, and everybody's going to do too much damage to each other, even if they're a scaling mage. and the AD junglers might come back, but realistically, the biggest meta defining thing in this patch is the buffs to Morgana jungle, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, I think that's everything, and I will be coming out with a tier list video for this patch shortly. Have a great night, guys.